Okay, so this is video number 8 in a series of 13. I am kind of catching up here for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this one is in the Systems of Abuse series, where we're going through all 13 of the types of the systems of abuse, aspects in a system of abuse in domestic violence. So domestic violence is far, far more than just bruises. We have already covered a whole bunch of topics. We've covered child abuse, cultural abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, intellectual abuse, pets and property, physical and psychological. Now, today, we are going to talk about sexual abuse in marriage or in intimate partner relationships. Now, we often think of sexual abuse as a child getting molested, which is absolutely sexual abuse, or we think of sexual abuse as being raped by a stranger, or having a member of clergy taking advantage of someone. But there can also be sexual abuse in marriage. Now, there's a whole Bible study to be done about mutuality in marriage and the importance of love and kindness and intimacy on emotional and spiritual and intellectual levels that makes sex in marriage a healthy and joyful thing. Sheila Gregoire from To Love, Honor, and Vacuum has some amazing stuff that I recommend on that topic. But right now, today, in this video, number 8 in our series out of 13, I want to talk about signs that you may be being sexually abused in your marriage. And yes, that is a thing. So even though you are married does not mean that you have revoked all of your right to consent. It does not mean that you are free to be taken advantage of sexually, and it does not mean that you can't expect to have your sexual boundaries respected and honored by your spouse. So these are 7 aspects of domestic violence in a system of abuse related to sexuality in a partner relationship or in marriage, okay? So number 1. Also, hey, if you're watching this and somebody on your newsfeed needs to see it, or it's just really powerfully impacted you and you want to help raise awareness, would you please hit share at the bottom? That'd be awesome, and it gets the word out to others. So here, hold on. Let me get my notes here from the Systems of Abuse Guidebook to Recognizing Toxic Relationships. It's an ebook. It's available on my website at www.wilderness2wild.com. Now let's go through these. Number 1, someone who forces you to have sex, who coerces or urges you against your wishes, or who withholds sex as punishment to get you to do what they want for long periods of time. So someone who either starves you for affection or starves you for sexual connection, or who forces sexual actions or sex in any way onto you. So either way, even if you're married, that is a form of sexual abuse. It is a form of mistreatment and unloving, unhealthy relationship. Now, this includes someone who refuses to take into consideration past trauma, past encounters that you've had, your requests to not touch your body in certain ways, your requests or expression that something is uncomfortable or unpleasant or not enjoyable for you. And so when you are expressing these things, or if you feel that it's not safe for you to express those things, this is a sexually abusive relationship. Or it very well may be. This is something to consider. It's a sign of a sexually abusive relationship. So that means if you aren't free to say no, then it's never really yes. I know. But truly, even in your marriage, if you aren't free to say no, it is not consent. Because consent can only come when there is also freedom to not consent. I know, just think about that for a second. Now, number 2. So that's forcing. Number 2, criticizing your body, your sexuality, your sexual preferences, or shaming or mocking your comfort zone. What is okay for you should be respected by your husband. If something is something you really don't like, or that reminds you of something in your past, or that is painful or uncomfortable or feels degrading to you, you have every right to say that you don't want to participate in that. And he has every responsibility to respect and honor and cherish your boundaries without criticism. 3, demanding. Someone who demands sexual favors as payment or compensation in return for things they did, for being nice to you, for something they bought for you. Someone who tries to trade sex for what you want them to do. And I'm not talking about like, hey, babe, if you'll help me out, maybe we'll have time to do something later because we'll both get done earlier and then we'll have time for some fun later. I'm not talking about that. Like, let's work together so that we can get to some time for intimacy. I'm talking about when someone is like, well, if you'll do that, I'll have sex with you. Or where someone is like, I'll get you that, or buy you that, or do that for you, but then you owe me later. That kind of relationship is treating you essentially as a vehicle of sexual service. It's prostitution inside of marriage. And it's not how God intended it to be. Number 4, someone who watches pornography or makes you watch it. Porn is inextricably tied to the human trafficking and sex trade to modern day slavery. The consumption of porn is shown to directly impact reduced empathy and to increase the acceptance of aggression and rape culture. Porn is not safe. It is not healthy on any level. It is an exploitation of other people, and porn is absolutely 100% adultery. Viewing someone else's sexuality and their body, even on a screen, for the purpose of sexual arousal is adultery. It is not being faithful to your spouse. So that is unequivocally, porn consumption is a form of sexual abuse in marriage, a form of domestic violence. Number 5, cheating on you by having affairs or one-night stands or paying for sexual services, even if it doesn't go all the way, from someone else or someone who threatens to do these. That is sexual abuse. It is a form of domestic violence. Number 6, disconnecting from your heart and your soul and your mind, refusing to engage in the partnership and intimacy that is required to make sex a loving, shared thing. Using your body instead of valuing you as a whole person. Number 7, molesting or sexually abusing others, regardless of whether they are adults or minors, outside of your marriage. Taking advantage of others sexually is also sexually abusing you, because it is breaking the covenant of faithfulness that someone has vowed in your marriage relationship. All of these are forms of domestic violence from a sexual perspective in marriage too. If they're happening outside of marriage, hey, that's abusive as well. But they are absolutely aspects of abuse and domestic violence inside an intimate partner relationship. If this is something that you are experiencing in your relationship, please consider calling the National Domestic Violence Hotline. If your husband is having sex with you while you're asleep, that's rape. If your husband is forcing you to have sex or guilting you into having sex or persuading you, manipulating you into sexual activity that you're not comfortable with, when you're not awake, when you're not alert, if you're on medicine that makes you too sleepy to consent, if he's waking you up in the middle of the night for sex and you have not wanted it or said yes, or you've asked for it not to happen, or you just haven't said anything, that is actually considered rape. These are huge, huge things to be aware of. They are aspects of sexual abuse in marriage. And I know this is a really heavy video and it's kind of a downer in many ways, but it can also help to open our eyes if this is what you are experiencing. If this is something that you feel is important for others to know and it would help someone or it has helped you, please share it on your feed. Please pass the video on, post it in your private groups for support for others. Send me a message, drop me a comment. Definitely check out my best books to read list. It's in the description of this video. Check out, there's more than 300 videos on YouTube, on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sarah McDugal, and go to the Wilderness to Wild website. That's www.wilderness-to-wild, all spelled out, .com, wilderness-to-wild.com, and scroll down. There are ebooks, there are free downloads, there's a survivor packing guide, there is all kinds of materials there just for you or someone you love who needs that help. And thank you so much for being here with me today while I'm at the beach. And drop me a comment, tell me what stood out to you here, or send me a message. Have a really great day.